Okay, we're back on record at 11:04 a.m. Detective Fogg, you are still under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you obtain a copy of an interview that had been conducted with Lieutenant Sean Hoover?
Yes, we did.
And when was that interview conducted?
That interview was conducted on March the 13th.
And who conducted that?
Officers with the Louisville Metro Police Department's Public Integrity Unit.
So we'll go ahead and play that interview.
In narcotics, actually in 3 years. Exact dates.
We'll just say 3 years.
All right.
How long have you been with the department?
17 and a half years.
Like you don't know. Are you under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or any other intoxicants at this time? Are you taking any kind of medication that would affect your judgment or your ability to think clearly?
No.
Did you sustain any injuries during this situation?
No.
Did you receive any medical treatment?
No.
What type of uniform or clothing were you wearing at the time of this incident?
I was wearing plain clothes, but I had the black, I guess, the standard typical police vest, this, black vest and white letters with police across the front end with my plain clothes attire.
Okay. So, plain clothes. You've got on green pants and like a camouflage Under Armour shirt.
Yes.
It's like a blue camouflage. With orange stitching, I guess. And it's a black vest.
Yeah, just like your standard black tactical vest.
Okay. Alright. Do you have the same clothing on right now?
Yes, minus the vest, yes.
Minus the vest, right? Because of the statutory requirements of 15.520, I'm obligated to advise you that this is a criminal investigation, not an administrative investigation. Okay? However, you are not the target of this investigation. Actually, I tell you what, I think I'm going to switch to a different form, and I think I'm listening. Just because of the nature of the situation, I'm going to go ahead and just read you your rights, so that way it's all covered. And there aren't any problems. I'm not trying to.
Okay, yeah, no. Just with that, I would like to talk to Steve, I guess, because I was just understanding this was a regular statement, so.
Yeah.
Nothing against you guys, it's just.
I apologize. I realized I grabbed the wrong form.
No worries.
My hand is awful tonight.
No worries.
That's not. Yeah, we got to do it.
Yeah, like this morning or something, like,
I apologize. I was before I even got any further. I was like, oh, I'm going to be ready. So, Steve?
Yeah, if something, I can just ask him outside, if it's good, if he don't have to be here, then I'm cool with it,
Yeah.
but I just.
No. I grabbed the wrong form, and I'm completely sure that we have to actually do it.
Okay. Fair enough. Because he didn't say nothing about it, so I was kind of like.
Yeah. I'll be right back. So, sit tight.
Okay, thank you.
I'm wrong. I apologize. But again, it's up to you. You know, just say this stuff if you don't want to. But no, I don't have to read because I wasn't aware of our particular situation. This would still apply. I apologize for any confusion. You still got to do what's best for you and what's right for you.
Yeah. No, I don't have an issue. statement at all, it just seemed different than what being talked about.
Okay, yeah, well, and that's why I want to clarify with, starting with Mother.
Okay.
I was like, I'm getting ready to screw this up, so let me go ask him.
Okay.
So, we'll go back to where we were, because the statutory requirements carries 15.52, I'm obligated to advise you, this is a criminal investigation, not an administrative investigation. However, you are not the subject of this investigation. Knowing this, are you going to give me something that this
Yes.
is? Okay. Again, I apologize.
That's okay.
And,
That's one little clarification.
Yeah.
That was a little different. But,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I didn't want to, as I got into it, I was like, hold on a second. I don't want to make that mistake, right? Because I want to treat you the way that I want to treat you. I'll tell you, here's kind of how I like to do it. It's your story. I'll listen to it. Give me as much information as you can. Basically from the very beginning. Use as many names as you can, as much detail as you can. To cover your brief.
Yeah. You're saying it's the briefing and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, basically, it was the new place-based investigations. They were doing 4 to 5 total. I think they were doing 3 with contingency on the 4th downtown. I'm trying to remember this. They're wrong, but I just remember contingency one was like 2605 Mile Valley, but they were waiting to see how the other warrants went before they were messing with that. But the one we were at on Springdale, that is an associated address with this gentleman. I said, this is not our investigation, but we were assisting them on that. So, but he had been using that address and apparently getting mail and stuff shipped there, sent there, and recently, if I remember correctly, said, this is his new permanent address. So their assumption that he's going to have dough or money or something he's storing there. So the brief, Wes Barton went over the brief. He briefed all of them at the same time. And I guess Josh James is SWAT, going into more detail, I guess, with the other ones. We didn't do a whole lot of briefing on the other warrants since SWAT was executing those, but it was still had a list of people who were going where and doing what. So the plan was when one SWAT was on unload. We're trying to do it somewhat close to simultaneous. So once they were unloading to go up to do their approach, we were going to drive over. We met at, I can't even remember the church. It's right there, I guess half a block south of St. Anthony's, right by the liquor store. We parked and met up, and then EMS was stations there. So we met up there. Once time got close, we were just waiting until they started protesting. We all got together and drove over there. I think we had, 5 vehicles, if I remember correctly. Let me see. I'm trying to think who. John was leading. He was driving. I believe it was a Chrysler full car. I'm not really for sure what it was. Brett Hankerson, he has this green Suburban or Tahoe. I think Suburban, not one of those two. Tony James had his Explorer. Mike Campbell was driving a Fusion. I don't know if I think it's a 4 car. So it's 4. And I rode in Miles Cosgrove's Nissan Mazda. So it seems like I'm listening to car. There were 7 of them. Okay. Well, there were 7 of us total.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, John, you, right?
Yes.
So me 2, Hankinson 3, James 4, Campbell 5.
Oh, no, had this Toyota Thunder. There's the other.
Okay.
So we followed John led. I think we were towards the back. We were second last, I believe, but we went up. You had to go up because of that gate you all saw. So we went up to the next entrance, come around, parked out at the end of it towards, I guess it's more towards the front of that building. We all exited our vehicles, got lined up, our stick, and we went right up to the door. Once we got to the door, I'm trying to remember where everybody was. I think Tony James was on the other side of the door. He had the bunker. And John was over there.
So Tony James had
He had
the
shield, yeah.
So, as you guys approach, you guys made a stack?
Yeah, we were getting together right as we were getting to the front of the apartment. It was just a terrible layout for us to make an approach, to make the best we could.
Now, I haven't been there. It's an apartment building?
It's an apartment, yeah, there's, hang on, there's 8 total. There's 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. I guess there's 2 on the side and 2 in the back, same with the above. I'm trying to the best way to explain it to you. I don't have a picture of it, shows you that.
Okay, what apartment?
4, I believe. I can look. I'm almost positive it's 4. Should have been 3003, number 4.
Okay.
I'm almost positive that's the right address. But once you go in, like I said, it's an open, this common area outdoors, and there's steps on the right-hand side to go up, but we were on the first floor. Like I say, John and Tony were on the other side of the door. Mike Nobles was on, everybody else was on my side.
Okay.
And Mike Nobles was, the range was on his side. And I think, if I remember right, I think Brett was covering, there's patio doors on the outside. On very front of one side of the building, or with the.
So did you guys have to breach the main door?
Yeah, yes, the regular entry door, not the glass doors.
So is that what you're describing to me now?
Yes, when you go in, there was the main door you enter, and out front they had like glass sliding doors. And if I remember right, Brett was covering those while we were at the door doing our knocking. So we were set up ready. It was actually no knock warrant. We didn't execute it that way. We knocked on the door, said police, waited, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds.
Okay.
Knocked again, said police, waited even longer. So it was the third time that we were approaching at a minimum 45 seconds, if not a minute. And then I said, let's go, let's breach it. So knocked again, yelled police, search warrant, Nobles hit the door 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And once the door went open, and I'm trying to think this, how, if you don't work there, I'm trying to think the best way to describe how, I mean, basically they were on the other, I think we'll take it, so you can have an idea of what I'm explaining. Well, basically, they were on the left side of the door, everybody else on the right-hand side. I'm trying to think of a way to explain it to you. And the mic ran from this right side of the door, and so it went out. Yeah, I guess that'd probably be easier. I'm just trying to look on video. I'm trying to think of the best way to. So this is Springfield. So parking spaces, and then there's like a sidewalk. And then this common area is just like a square, and this is like the bigger, I think the apartment's basically split like that. So there's 1 apartment here, 2 and 3 and 4. Well, the numbers aren't right, but that's kind of central layout. And the door to this one was right here. So there was Tony and John were on this side. And I know Mike was there. I was here, I believe Brett was up here. There's glass sliding doors at the front, and Brett was covering that. And everybody else, I guess, Campbell and Coster, they were on this side as well.
So it's an inward open, right?
Yes, I believe it swung that way. I I believe that's the way, I it's swung in left. Yes, the inward swing.
Do you think it opened inward to the?
I believe so, yeah. So Mike, once after the third hit, second, third hit, it opens up and John steps over and into the doorway. Well, I mean, he's still probably 5 foot away, but steps into it to try to get to see what you can see. I mean, it was dark in there. As soon as he leaned over, you hear gunshots coming out of that apartment. I don't know how many, because during that time, I heard the shots, John goes down, and he said something like, fuck, I've been hit, or something like that. I couldn't tell him. I could see he'd been hit in the leg. So, at that time, Tony, I think it's how that, because I don't know how I got into that doorway and got him out without getting shot. I believe Tony stepped in with the bunker to shield. Well, when John went down, I saw that he did return some rounds. I don't know how many. I just knew John Manning. When he went down, he was going down, he was returning fire while he was laying on the ground. And at that time, Miles come in front of me, and that's the last thing I grabbed John, and he's stumbling, trying to get, I'm dragging him, but he's used his legs kind of, so we're getting him out of there. And basically getting out to the parking lot and getting behind the first car we can get to. I don't remember what it was. So we were just basically doing parking space and bike vehicle. I can tell you anything about it. But we got him there trying to assess his injuries. And I knew I had a tourniquet, and I guess I was in somewhat panic mode. I just took my belt off and did that and held that until somebody got over there and Tony James had a tourniquet to put on his leg. Because all he tells he had one bullet wound in the upper thigh. And he was bleeding, I thought, a substantial amount, but I mean, of course I had all over me, but it was also in puddled water slime, and it couldn't make it look even worse. But I mean, he was definitely losing blood either way. So we tried to figure out the best way to try to stop the bleeding. So after that, we were able to move him again to the back side of another vehicle, which I believe was a civilian vehicle. I think it was a white Toyota big SUV, I believe is what it was. And also, I wanted to go back to something I forgot. When we were knocking the first 2 times, neighbor from above us come out and was like, what are y'all doing? Like looking down at us. So he heard us upstairs even knocking. And
So you
Detective Hankinson told him to go back in the apartment. He kind of wanted to argue. He's like, get back in the apartment. So the guy finally went back in the apartment. That was his white SUV is out front. He was dropping something off and he was trying to leave when all that happened. So, trying to think anything in between there. It's just such a blur. Got him out. I said to the behind one of these vehicles, it was part, I believe, was a other private citizen vehicle. I believe that may actually be where we got the tourniquet on. Was out there. I think I had to belt it first just to get him away from everything. Sure. We got him back there. That time, patrol officers were showing up. Whichever one got to me first, I don't know which one. It may be the other kid that's here when we gave him a knife for sure. But they gave me a knife, so started cutting John's pants to try to see if he had any more injuries or if he had a pass through. Because he kept saying, turn up here, turn up here. I think it's good to tourniquet. After that, it seemed like forever, I don't know. EMS, they come back. It seems like they left because I don't know if they were blocked by that gate to go around and come in another way. And I think we got hold of them to come back. Miles Coxgrove, his Nissan Altima was right there, or somebody got him pulled up. I don't know who was driving it. Me and another officer, it was, I'm not right there, I can't think of his name. Went around the gate. We got John up onto the back of the Altima, and time. Tony James was down there. I don't know how he got down there and tracked out. Either way, he was in there. So I just grabbed John off the trunk and just got through the gate and put him in the ambulance, and Tony helped me get him in the just something that I don't probably know, I can't think right now. Then after that, I believe Mike and Tony, don't know if they both went in time. I got off to go back to the scene while they were trying to take care of John and get him to the hospital. When I get back there, at that time there's a lot of other officers that were showing up. People were covering the doors with rifles and whatever. And I would say, I guess, probably 10 minutes later, roughly, something like that, the guys, there's a male gentleman there who decides to come out. So they talk him out. Breonna talked him out, got him all the way back up to the cars, and K9 also assisted as well because the guy was really slow walking, didn't want to come out. So K9 assisted with that. And he makes some statements. I can't remember much of them. I'm sure with all the body cameras that the officers there, they should be able to pull them up. But he said something about there's a woman down inside. He said she was the one shooting. He said she had a 9mm. He believed a 9mm. And he was taken into custody and put in a patrol car. I don't know where he was transported or whatever. They were just getting him out of there. And then during while this is going on, we were also calling for SWAT to come back because we there was an armed suspect in there. This is before the guy gave himself up. I'm sorry, I'm back a little bit. So we started calling for them to leave the warrants they were doing down in the magazine to come back and help us, because with, given the situation, we weren't going to walk back in there, so we were waiting for SWAT to come back and check the apartment cleared. And they found, said there was a female down inside, but that was it. I didn't ask her about weapons or anything like that. I just asked her, what casings were there, because I was assumption it was a rifle, like somebody was shooting. I mean, I know we're in close quarters, but it was so loud, and I don't know who said it. Somebody got a rifle, so I think he's got a rifle. So I don't know if it was AR-15 or what, but somebody said rifle. It may have been John, I'm not for sure. But as far as none of us stepped foot in that apartment with the incident. SWAT was the only one to go in there.
So you guys never actually made an injury?
We never made it in. We were, in my opinion, we were ambushed. They knew we were there. I mean, all the neighbors knew we were there upstairs. They were coming out to see what was going on, and they were waiting.
So I'm not just kind of running back there, so baby.
Yeah, I jumped around a little bit.
You're fine. Yeah, you're doing a great job. You really are. So I'll just run you back through it, and then we'll kind of, anything I miss or whatever, feel free to jump in at any point in time that you want to or whatever. I just want to make sure I fully understand it. So I guess this whole thing is you guys were doing place-based. It sounds like a bunch of search warrants at the time. As a result of some investigation.
It was all one investigation, multiple search warrants.
So you're not the lieutenant in charge of that unit, correct?
No. We were assisting, they needed bodies because they had so much going on.
And because you're in narcotics, you guys search warrants all the time, right? So this team that you work with today, do they work for you?
Some do, some used to. Well, let me think. If they could fall to. I think every one of them, other than Mike Noble, either works for me or worked for me before we did the reorganization.
Okay. So is it just kind of a hodgepodge team? team, I guess?
Yes, it was, you know, they needed bodies, we showed up and kind of just,
Was that a volunteer thing?
yes, yeah, yeah.
So you guys volunteered to show up. Where did you guys do the brief at?
See, I did 701 West North, we did our office.
Okay, at the narcotics office?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys do the brief at the narcotics office. Were these supposed to be simultaneous?
Trying to keep it reasonably close, not necessarily, we were one and we're waiting on SWAT to make their approach. And so we knew by the time we drove from there, parked, and there approached it, they were already in there. They wanted reasonably close, but not, you know,
No.
super silent.
Okay, okay. Not like some big super.
Right, and being the other end of town.
So what did you guys know about that target that you guys were going to?
All that we knew is it was a female apartment, I believe it was an ex-girlfriend. I say, I guess you gotta assume anything when you're, you know, in search warrants, but it was for a search warrant, it was considered a low risk one. I mean, as far as,
Okay.
it was mainly looking for, you know, any kind of documentation within that address and also on the narcotics. So cash, I mean, he was connected to that address, but it wasn't there.
Who's he?
I cannot remember his name right now.
No, it's fine. Was he the main target?
There was 5 associated with that case, and I believe it was the main one, the associate of the main guy.
Okay.
So like I said, there were 5, that's the whole network type. Like, you know, so.
I'm assuming there was an actress then?
I believe. I say that, but I did not see one.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess they can be there on me for not asking that question.
Okay.
I guess under the assumption that it was low risk, they knew the history. I assume they did.
But based on what you were briefed on, you felt like it was low risk. Is this something?
Yes, I felt I'm just easily capable. Yeah, nothing outside our capability.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been in narcotics, I guess, about 3 years, right 3 years, and then I also did 6 years, 5 years of the flex unit, and then also sergeant of the First Division Halo for a year.
So you've served 15 warrants.
Yeah, quite a few.
So you probably have a pretty good idea of what's high risk, what's low risk. When to make the appropriate call to who. And
Correct.
when. And given your position, you're probably very, I would assume, and that's just purely an assumption on my part, that that's something that you do quite often, and you know the fact of what goes on a matrix, what's considered telling, so who to call appropriate. So you guys get briefed up at the CID office, you guys roll out and you meet basically like a staging area.
Yeah, church. I can't think of the name of it. It's just south of that liquor store, St. Anthony's. I can't think of what the name of the church is.
Gotcha. But in close proximity.
Yes.
Okay, it's St. Anthony's and what's the closest?
It runs off of St. Andrews, which, you know where St. Andrews and Blanton is? You know where YMCA is off of, that's almost, okay, say Dixie and Greenwood?
Okay.
Well, I guess it would be St. Andrews there. Just, if you go, you drive right past the Frisch's there, I'd say it's probably a mile and a half tops up there. St. Anthony's would be on your right, if you're coming from Dixie.
So you guys stage, say, okay, these are the teams we're gonna take. Before you guys stage, have positions already been assigned as far as?
Yeah, we had, there's a list on the board, yeah, we haven't went with.
Is that all still on the board?
I would assume.
Okay.
I would assume that hasn't been touched since we left.
Okay. All right. So everybody kind of gets us basically in the assigned position.
Yeah.
To breacher.
Yeah, and for that, the first 3 were the main ones, and after that, it's kind of fluid, you just kind of, you know, we're getting up there together, but if the back few right were, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, the main 3 were the first 3. So.
Okay. So, was John's position, was he to provide security for Tony, or what was kind of his role?
I guess once, I mean, we were, I guess, essentially probably, well, I wasn't where Tony had the bunker when he saw it, just reasonably, we're gonna follow Tony in. So, I didn't know he had it with him. So, essentially, John, I think, was just stepping over and trying to clear, and was, I believe he was actually shouting search warrant, if I remember correctly, and immediately, was gunfire. So he was trying, I believe, just to clear what he could, and then Tony would have come in and we would just all got in behind and just followed over through.
So you guys get into the apartment building itself, and then you're outside on a door.
Yeah, the common, well, I say the common area, that it's still outside. We never made it to it. It's not an interior.
Oh, okay. Like I said,
Once you see it, you'll understand what I'm
Okay,
saying.
sure. So you guys stack up on the door, and you said you guys knocked and announced. How many times?
3 times.
3 times you knocked and announced. And then were you, so as you did that, how long ago would you say you waited in between knocking and announcing?
I mean, it was probably 10 to 15 seconds at least.
Okay.
Like I said, for the 3, it was at least 45 seconds, if not a minute. I mean, we were there for a little bit, and, hindsight, but, so it wasn't no knock warrant, but because with it, we considered it going to be more of a low risk, we're like, we'll just give them a chance to open the door.
Okay.
So that was kind of our thought process, was that we were going to give them a chance to open the door,
And why?
because, like I said, it was low risk, and with that, we didn't, obviously there's the concern of destruction of evidence, but we felt with her, she made me like, what's this, if he was there, it'd be a different story, but with her, that's why we knocked the first 2 times, it just said police. We didn't, police search warrant, we just said police, and waited, delay, whatever 10, 15 seconds was, repeated the same thing. And then the last time, it said, let's just hit it, they're not going to answer. So then that's when we did the search warrant, police search warrant announcement.
Okay. So the first 3 times that you knocked, or the first 2 times that you knocked, you just said police,
Yes.
hoping to draw her to the.
Yes. And it was, like I said, it was loud enough that the neighbor above them come out to see what was going on.
So the 3rd time that you knocked, that's when you guys say search.
He said bang, and said police search warrant, and then Mike rang it.
Okay, and then Mike rang.
Yeah.
And then, for whatever reason, John steps out. And I guess is his gun up at this point?
Yes, I can't go from memory and remember him actually stepping out, but I know he did that because of where he got shot.
Okay.
He had to step right into that front of that door, trying to, just looking in to clear, I guess, to see if there's any threats, immediate threats there.
Okay, and you felt like, and then he gets shot, like
Immediately,
like
immediately. As soon as that door flew open on that last hit, I said, everybody's probably yelling it, but I remember somebody yelling search warrant. So I can't say specifically who it was, but, and immediately, there was, gunfire coming at us.
Okay. So, you feel like at some point, then possibly Tony James steps in front of the door with the shield?
I'm assuming that to get John out of there and he not get shot, that probably had to happen because John was kind of in the open and Miles in the open.
Okay.
And like I said, Miles stepped in front of me trying to address a target and I grabbed John and and after that I was just dragging him getting him out of there. I heard a bunch of gunshots. I couldn't tell you, where they're coming from, but they were very loud, so.
Did you see anybody else shoot? Because
I did not see
John
anybody.
shoot, right?
Yeah, John. I'm sorry. John was the only person I saw shoot.
He's the only person that you saw shoot. Okay. Anybody else tell you that they shot? Did you
I believe Brett and Miles did, but like I said,
Brett
that's,
Hankinson?
yes.
Miles Cosgrove?
Yeah. But I didn't see anyone shoot up. Because at that point, I'm dealing with John and Brian, so like I said, I'm just hearing gunfire everywhere.
But as a lieutenant, at some point in time, you asked that, I'm guessing that would be a guess.
Yes, I was checking to make sure they were okay, you know, and make sure they were fine, and you can tell they were a little more shook up, and that's why, you know,
It's completely understandable.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, completely understandable. So, you guys, after that happens, it sounds like it kind of settles down a little bit, maybe? As far as like, that initial burst of wind.
Yes, once we got out into cover, it was quiet.
And then, so you immediately start trying to render aid, you do all that, once, John gets down to EMS, you then turn your attention back towards
Go back to
the scene.
Yeah.
When you get back to the scene, I believe you said that you saw people have rifles on windows and the doors.
Yeah, those were, the patrol officers that showed up. Sometimes they're in span, I don't know, there were quite a few, obviously, in that situation.
So obviously, it sounds like they're trying to contain it.
Yes.
And so as that is happening, a male comes out from the inside.
Yeah, it was, you know, in that situation, it's so hard to determine time with everything going on, but I would say it was a minimum 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
A guy decided to come out. I was down the way and I heard him, I believe it was Brent Hankinson that was addressing him.
Okay.
And he was like, something to the effect of, there's a male coming out, and then basically talking about, and the guy walked extremely slow, just small. So it took forever for the guy to get back there.
Okay.
And I said canine study, and I can't remember that officer's name for nothing, but he had his dog there, and was like, come back, you know, to me, or at least the dog, and he picked up the pace after that. He got back a little quicker, but he was being covered by multiple fires definitely.
Do you remember any of the faces or names of anybody else that you saw out there?
No, the bad thing is, they're also new, like, during that incident, no, I mean, I talked to Major Shai and Lieutenant Randall afterwards, but I don't know if they were there when the guy come out. I mean, other than, you know, the group of guys out there.
Okay.
There was a bunch.
Okay, but you remember the canine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember his name for nothing.
Okay.
It may come back to me or something.
Can you describe it for me?
He's white male. I want to say his hair is kind of a spiky. I know who the guy is. I recognize him. It's not somebody I've ever talked to, but I recognize who he is.
Kirk?
It wasn't Kirk.
Nemo, Jeremiah Nemo.
It may have been Nemo. Is he kind of taller? I mean, like 6'1", 2-ish, something like that, maybe? Yeah, so.
Possibly Neat.
I believe that's who it was.
He was out there when I went to the scene.
And,
Then, if he was the ones out there, that's more than
First
likely.
it was Jeremiah.
so you turn your attention back towards the apartment. You see it's now covered down, and this guy ends up getting talked out by Brett Hankinson, who was with you guys, and then with the assistance of a canine officer. Do you remember who all went into the apartment?
I don't know if anybody went into it. SWAT did. I don't think that I saw, I'm 100% positive, none of the narcotics people or CID people went in there. I think somebody, your guy may have done a walkthrough or something. I don't even know if they went in. I know they were over there by the door. SWAT, I think, were the only ones that went in. I don't think any other officers went in. Not that I'm aware of. Because with that, potential armed suspect, we were just holding the perimeter and letting SWAT come handle that.
Okay. So, after, I guess, SWAT ends up getting it cleared,
Yes.
you were there for that?
I was there, yes.
Okay. So SWAT gets it cleared, and then kind of run me through what happens from there. I guess just chain of command starts showing up.
Yes, I mean, during that time, I contacted Major Barbara to let her know that she already knew at that point. She was like, I'm on my way to the hospital now.
Okay.
I guess she probably got the command page, I guess. But I tried to call her whenever, as soon as we got John in the ambulance and gone, I immediately called her.
Right.
As far as command showed up, I said it was Lieutenant Isaac Manley from the 3rd and Major Shot. They were out with a barricade subject in Paradigm, so they went from that to that.
Okay.
Colonel Judah showed up. I'm trying to remember who else.
Did you tell anybody about what happened?
What do you mean?
Did you talk to anybody else about what happened? As far as like, did you share the whole incident? Did you share?
Well, I talked to Major Burger and let her know what was going on.
Okay.
And that was basically up to the point of where I think got John on the ambulance. I don't think that the guy had come out yet. He was still in there
Okay.
at that point, I'm pretty sure.
I guess, let me say it like this. Other than informing command of what happened,
Yeah.
did you talk to anybody else about it? Anybody else, like another peer or something like that? You know, so like me and him are peers,
Yeah.
I'd say, you come up and you're like, man, this is what happened. You know,
Well, I mean, we had other guys from the CID showing up that work, they're currently in my and good friends of John. So, I mean, that's the main thing is just kind of explain to people like, man, I think he's all right. This is kind of what happened. Just getting the gist. I didn't go through like a detailed, anything like that, but I felt that was something I should inform them. I couldn't be like, sorry, we'll talk later. I mean, that's a good friend of theirs that they've worked with for years in their life. So, I felt somewhat I was obligated, but in order to comfort them a little bit, so they knew what was going on with their friends.
okay. So you didn't like cover it with like in depth detail or anything like
No,
that?
no. I was just saying, we were making entry and man, we were immediately getting fired upon and we drove John out of there. And that was kind of the gist of it. It wasn't obviously nothing detailed like this. It was, of course, I'm running around, having calls from each other and stuff like that. I didn't really have time to sit around and conversate a whole lot.
Right. Doing what you basically what you pay for, right? At that point,
So, yeah, yes.
I mean, it sounds kind of
Yeah, you're exactly right.
to put it that way, but I mean, it's right.
Yes.
When we kind of start this commanding officer,
Yes. That's true.
Yeah.
You mentioned SWAT guys when they kind of cleared it.
Yes.
You don't need their names, do they?
Well, see, because when I was asking, I was like, you're not going to clear it. They're like, we've already cleared it. I think I talked to Sergeant Brandon Owens, and I think at that point, they had already, because they were there, and I know I told Brandon, I told him, what the situation was, but then, either Major Burger called me or I had to call her or something. I think something along those lines, and then I believe Miles talked to them to kind of fill them out. So so that way they were made aware of what the situation was. But they went in, they were able to clear it because I believe they were able, at the doorway, they were able to see, the subject that was down.
So there's 4 apartments in this little alcove?
Yeah, I would assume this one probably goes like that. I'm assuming, I didn't go in, so I have no clue what was
But there-
inside.
Does you remember 4 doors in your little?
Yeah.
So the guy that was upstairs, you had
It was above one.
Okay, so So,
I mean, he was above, this is actually number 4. I did a terrible job at that. I was just listing 4 apartments.
so he was above the one that you were doing the
Yes.
second one?
Yes.
Okay. What did he look like?
You know, it was one of those things I wish, you know, at the time, I was just worried we're trying to get in the door, you know, the guy's coming out. I know he was a taller gentleman. It seems like, I don't know, yes, at all. He seemed like he had darker skin tone, like he could have been possibly Hispanic or maybe less than black. I'm not positive. It almost seemed like he had what's the word I'm looking for?
Accent.
There we go, an accent of some sort, just of what I can remember, because I'm trying to watch that and watch this door at the same time, so it was, but as he was going by, he was talking to somebody in the apartment, and it just, I don't know why I remember that, but it seemed like he had an accent.
I kind of want to circle back to something. So when you guys decided to knock on the door and use that instead of the no knock, like
Yes.
would it be fair? Because I don't want to make assumptions and put words in your mouth. Would it be fair though? And I guess this is, I know from my experience in training, that sometimes we do things like try to get somebody to come to the door. It sounded like you guys were using more of an approach of trying to be more cautious and also trying to mitigate, you know, the higher risk of the no-knock.
Correct, and I believe that they were all signed as no-knocks due to that whole group with their, you know, with the narcotics trafficking, guns. I believe First Vision was done one very big fashion, you know, vacant properties and houses down there. I think First Vision got like 7 guns out of those properties a while back. So I think they were all signed as that, and we were just of the mind that like, let's just try to do this as normal, because I mean, granted the judge signed it, we could have done it, but we thought this was the better alternative.
Would you say that you felt like it was safer for everybody to do it that way?
Yes, I mean, we assumed, never assumed, but I assumed somebody would come and answer the door. That was our intention, to give that opportunity to, you know, one, you know, it's after midnight, you're breaking in somebody's door and it's dark and if they're in bed, startled. So we're trying to give them a chance to answer the door, you know, and on top of that, it keeps us from having to tear up their property, you know, and not that we're going to try to do that if we did a blue team, but, you know, there was a lot of things that pointed us in that direction of like, let's just not go on this door. You know, we just,
Well, you had how many members of your unit with you who have umpteen warrants and numerous years of narcotics experience.
between Tony James and John Madden alone, I mean,
Right.
just those two, and then you had Breonna and Campbell's. I'm just, yeah, I mean, nobody, I mean, there was nobody that said, no, let's do the no. I mean, everybody was in agreement. We've done a lot of ours, you know, they probably done plenty more than I have, but, you know, everybody, that seemed to be, to us, the best option. That seemed to be the right thing for us to do on that.
Sure. One other question. I'll tell you what we'll do is, do you have any objections if we have any further questions tomorrow or day after, if we, you know, contact you, reach out to you, and, you know, follow up with you? Do you have any objections?
No, I don't have issues with that.
What's your number for you?
502-744-4253. That's my personal.
744-4253?
Yeah.
Are there any questions we have not asked you, or any other information you have that may be beneficial to this case?
No.
Okay. Is there anything you want to state for the record before we?
Yep.
Is everything you've told me the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Will it include the statement, permanent time is going to be 0?
Any questions for Detective Fogg about Lieutenant Hoover's interview? The process of your investigation.
Yes, ma'am.
One question. Was he asked specifically based on his position, or was he asked specifically about his position in the stack, and then based on that position, whether he could see the man upstairs?
I think he said at the beginning of the interview, he talks about he's at the rear of the stack, or toward, not complete rear, but he was behind Mattingly, James,
But did he say he was
and
under
Cosgrove. He mentions he mentions hearing him, and he mentions he couldn't really tell exactly what he looked like. He said he was light skinned.
Anything else? Did you obtain a copy of recorded interviews that had been conducted with Kenneth Walker?
Yes, ma'am.
And when were those interviews conducted?
Those interviews were conducted on March the 13th.
And where were they conducted and by whom?
They were conducted by Louisville Metro Police Department Public Integrity Unit. They were conducted by Sergeant Amanda Seeley and Sergeant Chad Tennell.
We'll start with the first interview. Do you have, well, we'll learn what the time is. We'll go ahead and play the first interview.
So do you know who we are? We're the Public Integrity Unit. We investigate officer-involved shootings. So we're here just to try to find out what happened. Because we take our stuff to Commonwealth attorneys, so we can find out all the information we can. So you were asked about your parents earlier. Talk to you about your dad. Are you close with your dad? Does he still come to Atherton? Okay.
He started young coach, but he was about to start coaching somewhere else.
Well, Atherton had to put you. And Sergeant Tennell actually spoke to your parents.
I did. So, we both knew basically everything we know at this point, which is, pretty much in the early stages of the investigation, right? And we told them that, you were ready to come back here and things like that. And I was actually with a guy that knew your father from Atherton football. We spoke to him for a couple minutes and just kind of told him as much as we knew at that point. And that was about it. We had a good conversation. And Kenny, kind of same thing, right? We're going to tell you everything we know, okay? And like, he was telling you, this is like the internal affairs unit, right? So we're just kind of figuring stuff out at this point. And, you have a pretty good perspective. We always go through WR.
Before we get started, I just need to go over, get a to you, and you sign it. Just read over it, and then just check and tell me what's going on. This is Amanda Seeley, Metro Police Department Public Integrity Unit. Also with me is Sergeant Chad Tanel, BAU Office 3652 Taylor Boulevard. Today's date is March 13, 2020. Thursday, current time is 03:53. I am here with District 9. Is it Kenny or Kenneth? Kenneth? And last middle initial? Okay, so Walker, the third. Okay, what is your date of birth? Okay, social? Do you have a home phone or cell phone? That's thank you. Where do you currently reside? Is that an apartment? So we're here about an incident that occurred at 3007 Springfield. 3007. That's 3003? I'm sorry. 3003 Springfield Drive. Who is that? Whose apartment is that to you? Girlfriend? What is her name? Breonna Taylor? What'd you say?
I'm scared.
We're just trying to find out what happened. Do you hang out at your girlfriend's house a lot?
She's off work and stuff.
So had you been over there all day?
Good day today.
You had a good day?
Took a friend with us. Went to go eat, take some drives. Came back home, just chilling, watching it.
Just you and her? So you wife else live there?
Our little sister, but she's in California, but visiting the free right
Oh, okay. Good.
Feeding riders.
Good.
Actually was.
Was it? I've heard of it.
It's an old movie.
Oh, was it?
Teaching how to kids and stuff.
I think I've heard of it. So did y'all finish watching the movie?
Laying in bed. It's a loud knock at the door. The boat jumped out. Actually, she had fell asleep.
Oh, hang on, I'm sorry. I need to finish this paper real quick. I'm so sorry. I I got tired of listening to you. So let me read these real quick and then just go back to where you are. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer prior to any questioning or making intervening statements, and have them present with you while you're reviewing questions. If you can't afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed by the court to represent you before questioning if you desire. You may stop questioning or making statements anytime or refusing to answer. Further, provide requesting to consult with an attorney prior to continuing with questioning or making intervening statements. Just need you to sign this. This is, I have read the statement of my rights. I understand what my rights are. I'm willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer at this time. I understand and know what I'm doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me. I'm sorry?
Rob just told me I was going to jail for the rest of my life. Which one it was. They said it was going to let the dog on me and all types of stuff just happened. Just in the bed.
Who was that? Do you know? Can you describe it to me? No, I understand. I'm sorry. I just don't like when people do that. Yeah.
There's the dog right there, right behind me, barking. I'm out there with no shoes on, clearly nothing, walking in water and stuff, backwards. And he's like, I'm gonna let this dog on you, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. And I'm like,
Was it, you know, it was an officer in uniform?
yeah, definitely officers are in uniform. The first one I came in contact with.
Well, they had body cameras and stuff like that. Okay, and we had ways of doing that. So yeah, and we'll watch them for the body cameras.
And he asked me, were you hit by any bullets? I said no. He said that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's not
Exact words.
It's not appropriate. Okay.
So can I be good to sign this and then get you your statement? Leave you alone. Just wanna know what happened. The more we know, the more we can look into and see what happened and
We both get up, start was like, who is it? Loud at the top of her lungs. No response. So I'm like, what the heck? So then I grabbed my gun, which is legal, like I'm licensed to carry everything. I've never even fired my gun outside of the range. I was scared to death. So she says that there's another knock at the door. She's yelling at the top of her lungs, and I am too at this point. Who is it? No answer, no response, so anything. So we like, what the heck? We both just see what happened. Grab the nurse, saying he's only come out, it's hers. So we both were just putting on something to go answer the door and see who's knocking at the door. It's late at night. So when we come out, when we get out of the bed or whatever, like walking towards the door, the door comes off the hinges. So I just let off one shot, I still can't see who it is or anything. So now the door is flying open, I let one shot, and then all of a sudden there's a whole lot of shots. And we both just dropped to the ground, and the gun fell right over there. And I because I'm scared to death. Now we're seeing lights and stuff. So it's okay, it's the police, and there's a lot of yelling and stuff. So they're just shooting, we're both on the ground, and when all the shots stop, I'm panicking. She's right there on the ground, bleeding, and yeah.
So was there any lights on in the living room or the hallway? Was everything off because you guys had gone to bed?
Everything was off. The light, we were. And actually that light was off at that point. We were done. It was just, the movie was watching us more than we were watching it. And when it's a long hallway, as you can see, so, all you can hear is a knock at the door. Even if somebody was saying something on the other side, you probably couldn't hear them. But as loud as we were screaming to say, who did I know whoever would be on the other side of the door could hear us. So, that's it. Next thing I know, she's on the ground and the door's busted open and I hear a bunch of yelling and I'm just panicking and I'm telling somebody I'm yelling at him because she's right here bleeding and nobody's coming and I'm just confused and scared and I feel the same right now. That's it.
So you said you grabbed your gun. Do you have a CCW?
Yeah.
What kind of gun do you have?
It's just a 9mm.
What's it look like?
It's silver and it's black. It's a Glock 9.
So you said you grabbed it?
Just because we were scared at this point, this loud boom, it's late night, and we're asking who's at the door. Nobody's saying anything, and you keep knocking, and you're not saying anything. So I'm what's going on? I didn't expect. It scared me when the door got kicked and stuff. So my only reaction was to do that. I'm trying to protect her. She didn't have a gun, so
Does she own a gun? So did both of y'all step out of the bedroom? Were you in the hallway?
Yes. Didn't even get all the way down the hallway to the door before it got kicked. She literally got shot right at her doorway in the house. We both literally stepped out of her doorway and then they came down the door and I left the shop in the hallway next to each other.
Okay.
So then they just start shooting 10 shots.
Where did you go then?
I just dropped on the ground, right next to her door. I dropped on the ground. There's a room to the left when you come out of her room. So there's a wall, right here. So when I just dropped on the ground, I scooted over, but I'm trying to I didn't know if these shots, where they're going or stuff, I'm scared. I've never been that close to somebody shooting a gun. Unless it's in a controlled environment, such as at the range or something. So I'm freaking out. I can't register anything that's going on. So
she just fired out one?
Yeah, just one. That was just the one. I don't know who's coming to this door. The door just got kicked out. It just, I'm scared. One shot, boom, and then there was a lot of shots, so I just dropped like,
And what did you do with your gun when you dropped?
I kicked it up under the bed. I told the other officers, because I didn't know what's going on at this point. I'm just scared, and if they did, I'm thinking like somebody's gonna like come in, because I'm noticing it's the police now, because I hear them yelling and stuff after the door's already been kicked down, after I'm yelling for help, and she's right here on the ground. So I didn't want anybody to be like thinking I'm trying to be, do something. If they come here, I just want her to get help at this point. Like, I don't even care what happened to me at that point. Like, she needed help. And all of that was for no reason. And nobody still said anything about what they were even doing at the door, because I know for a fact they couldn't have been coming for either one of us. Like, there would be no reason for that at all. And that other, I don't know who he was, but he came and told me there was some type of misunderstanding or something like that already.
An officer told you that?
Yeah. And the police car on the ride over here, we pulled over in the parking lot somewhere, and the guy came to my window and he was asking my name, and he was like, the first thing I said to him was she lied? He was like, well, we'll talk about that when you get to where you're going. Lost it. And he was like, I just wanted to let you know right now that all of this was, they had a misunderstanding or something like that. To me, it seemed like they realized that they were at the wrong place.
So this person in uniform?
No, he wasn't. He was driving like a silver SUV.
So you and Breonna had any kind of interactions with police or anything lately?
No.
Does Breonna work?
Yeah.
Where does she work?
She works at the hospital at right off the highway on Breckenridge Lane. Health was U of L, and she also works at Jewish as a part-time job.
Okay. Where do you work?
Well, I'm employed right now. I just lost my job January 21st from Coca-Cola. I was working there for 2.5 years. I actually just got hired on at the post office in a place called Breonna, making seats for the floor.
You just got hired?
That post office.
Kenneth, what do you want to be called?
Kenneth is my name.
I never had the luxury of like shortening my name. All of a sudden it was cool. It's Chad. So, what are you going to do with that, So, then I kind of just want to go back over it and kind of, fill in maybe some confusion that I had. So these like loud bangs in the door, and you all are yelling, who is it? Who is it? That kind of thing. How many loud bangs there was?
So first it was dun 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 dun.
Okay.
Like what's that? So now we cannot put no clothes.
Yeah, we all are dead.
Yeah. They cannot put no clothes.
Naked, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we get up. All right, I'll probably get my pants on.
Mhm.
She probably gets some pants on, and it's another like dun 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 dun. She's like, who is it?
Right.
Like loud and
Still in the bedroom?
Still in the bedroom. Because we're trying to get decent to go into the door,
Right.
wherever it may be.
Is the bedroom that first bedroom on the left down the hallway, or is it on the right? I didn't make it all the way down there.
It's all straight back.
Straight
You
back.
come in the door,
Right.
you just keep on walking straight and you'll be in the
Okay.
It's all the way down the hallway.
Sorry to interrupt you with it.
So after that second loud bang, where she's still yelling, who is it? Like I said, I grabbed the gun.
Sure.
So now we got enough clothes on. I still didn't make it even put shoes on or anything. I don't have anything. So,
Yeah, no, I said it, yeah.
so after I grabbed that, we start walking towards the door to go see who it is.
Sure.
Another loud bang. Well, not really, I don't even know if it's another loud bang, but the door is coming in. When we got to the doorway to go see who it is, the door is coming in.
The doorway, like, in, like, down.
Doorway, no, we never made it past the room.
The bedroom doorway?
We never made it past the second bedroom in the home. That's on the left, there's a bathroom that's on the right if you're coming from the room. We never even made it like mid-hallway.
Okay. So you never made it past the bathroom?
No, if you saw where her body was at, and I saw before I left, there was holes in the back wall, like of the hallway. So you can see exactly where we were at, like coming to the door.
Right.
But as we're coming to the door like comes off the hinges.
Okay.
Like, but you can't see anybody though. Like when the door comes off the hinges, it's happening fast. Like it's like an explosion.
Sure.
You know, so boom, one shot. Then all of a sudden there's a whole lot of shots. We both dropped to the ground. But I just hear her screaming.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Did you shoot towards the door or just like up in the air or
Like towards the ground, really just
Right.
like warning shots. So if it was somebody that would run off or something, you know what I'm saying? Just like somebody's at this point, somebody's breaking in the home. Like we don't.
Did you see anything when the door come off the hinges? Did you see anything at that
No, I couldn't see anybody. It was dark. There was no lights out there. So all we heard is these loud booms. We're saying who was it? Nobody saying who it is. And then the door gets kicked in.
Where were you at? Where was she at? Where were you at when that shot was fired?
So say she was right here,
Right.
and I was right here.
Is this the other bedroom door?
This is the other
This would be
bedroom
the
door right
bathroom.
here. So we in the bathroom, and she's standing right here.
And your all's bedroom.
We just came out. She really came out first, but she was kind of like next to me, so I came out. And then the door gets kicked in, so I'm right here's the other room. She's right here, so it was one shot, boom. Then the door's flying open. There was a whole lot of shots, so we both dropped.
Right.
But when I drop, you know, I'm right here closer to this room. She's dead in the middle of the hallway. So any shots coming in don't have any choice to go right there.
So are you right-handed?
Yes.
You shot with your right hand?
Yeah.
So did you shoot before the door flew open?
Yeah. Well, like, it was all in like one motion. As it flew open, like boom, boom. Like it was like simultaneous.
It was kind of like that, like a boom.
Yeah, not really. I feel like I aimed down.
Beat down a little bit.
Yeah, like, cause I wouldn't, of course, I don't need to kill anybody if I can just get you out here just by you hearing me. So.
Did you hear anything, any other words? I mean, was anything being said at all when the door flew open, or
No.
did you hear anything?
No, just the door coming open, and at that point they're shooting and she's screaming. And I'm on the ground, my feet are kind of into the other room at this point. So when the shots are going off, I'm scooting, like, you know, and like I said, so when I let off the shot, and I dropped to the ground, the gun dropped like right here, and that's on the ground, I kicked it like that with my foot.
Into that other bedroom,
Yes.
underneath that bed
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yes.
Is that her sister's room?
That's her sister's room.
Okay.
She's not here right now, she's in California, so thank God she was here.
At what point did you realize there was police?
When the door was open and she was on the ground, like bleeding, so now I'm right there with her, and like I can hear like a whole lot of chatter and stuff outside, but I'm hysterical, like at this point, like I'm yelling at somebody to come help her or whatever, and then after it's been like 5 minutes, like I called my mom, and I told her that somebody just kicked in the door and dropped me. So at that point, when I called my mom, I still didn't know it was police. So I told her on the phone, somebody kicked the door. So I hung up. My mom's like, call 911 right now, call 911 right now. So I called 911, and I told them what happened. I'm still not knowing it's the police. Cause then I called Breonna's mom. I hung up on 911. I told her my name, and I told her what happened, and I told her where I was at. Then I hung up and I was like, I gotta go. So I called her mom. I called Breonna's mom, and then I told her what just happened when I was on the phone with her. That's when I kind of realized that it was the police, because now they're yelling like, come out, come out. and I'm on the phone with her. So while this is all, I'm still yelling help because she's over here like coughing and like, I'm just freaking out. But I'm on the phone with her mom now at this point. So they keep yelling, come out. So I'm like, okay, it's the police. So now I'm like, okay. So I'm coming out or whatever. I still on the phone with her mom. Before I stepped out, I yelled to them. I'm like, hey, I got my phone in my hand. Like, I'm unarmed. Like, you know, so I come out. And I like, you know, I'm like this. I like, put the phone down. So I put the phone on the ground. You know, just like this. And they're like, telling me to walk backwards to them or whatever. So I just start walking backwards, and I'm like, there's something that was blocking me or whatever that was telling me to move out of the way. And like, the dog is barking, and that's when I got close to the edge, and the dude was like, are you hit with any, did you get hit by any bullets? And I'm like, no. He said, oh, that's unfortunate. And then that's so he had the dog right there. I don't have any shoes. I clearly have nothing in my hands, anything. I'm walking backwards, and he has this dog right here barking like 3 feet behind me, like the dog is going crazy. And he's like, if you don't, if you don't get down or something, you know, I'm doing everything they're asking me to slowly and truly, like, I'm like scared to death. And I told him like I'm scared, like, and he was like, if you don't get down on your knees, I'm gonna let the dog go. I'm gonna let the dog go. And I'm just like, please don't let the dog go. Like, so I finally get down, and then they come and they put the cuffs on me and stuff, and then they walk me away. And that was it. That was the end of everything.
Where did you put your phone down at?
Right in front of the front door. And her mom was still on the phone while this was happening.
What's your phone look like?
It's got a red cell phone case on it. It's an iPhone 11 Max Pro.
Does it have a passcode that locks it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the passcode?
1017.
Did she have a phone?
Yeah.
Did she call anybody like when y'all first heard her name in?
No, I called people after everything had happened, and nobody, what really made me not realize it was the police either, because nobody was like rushing in after all this happened. They all like stayed outside, so I'm like, what the heck was that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so now, because she was shot, that's what made me call my mom and call her mom, you know, let everybody know what just happened.
So you called your mom, then 911,
Yeah.
and then her mom.
Because my mom told me to call 911.
So do y'all have like patio doors in your apartment as well? Did you see anybody? I mean, did you come out of the hallway before?
I never came out down the hallway until I walked all the way outside with my phone. I never came all the way down the hallway. I didn't know what was going on. I was worried about her. She was on the ground. Easy.
So were you walking out of the apartment backwards, or did you walk forward
I walked
until you got to the
forward
door?
until I got to the door, and I yelled out the door, hey, I have my phone in my hand, and I'm coming out. And when I came out, they told me to put the phone down, and they told me to face towards the other door that walked backwards towards them.
Did you see anybody or anything at the patio doors or anything? And what were they yelling to you?
Just come out. They were just yelling, come out of the apartment.
So once the door flew open, you never saw anybody's?
No.
Never heard anything?
No, after the door flew open, I guess they like dispersed or something, which makes sense because I let off a shot, so I guess they just moved from right there. But I still not knowing who it was or what just happened. Like everything happened like in the blink of an eye. Like literally it was like 5 to 10 seconds or less, like when all of that happened. Like,
You know, Any idea how many shots you heard after you fired your number?
Like 10. It had to be at least like 10. Like, it was a lot of shots. I seen for sure on her, I was right there with her, like, I don't even know, like 3 holes on her leg, then on the wall, like right behind where she was, it was like 4 holes on the wall. You know, like, it was a lot of shots.
So, you said when you got to lay in your bed, you grabbed your gun, you keep your gun like next to you in bed, or?
No, like it was just like on the floor, I think, like in the holster. Just there, because I carry it every day, and I got a holster that's supposed to be inside. I got my pants on me at the end of the day, whenever I come in the house, whether it's her house, my house, whatever, I'm just gonna set it something. I don't have any kids or anything, and she don't either, so I don't even have to like get put up or say or anything. So.
Ken, I know you said you fired one round. Did she ever shoot at all? Did any more rounds ever get fired out of that gun? No, just one. Just one. Okay. 9mm Glock. Okay.
You keep a full mag.
Yeah, but it might have been short, maybe 2 or 3. Because last time it was the rain, I used up all my bullets, so I only had that couple bullets. I just had them in there for just in case.
How many did you think you had?
I can't really say, I mean, like I just check it all the time.
Right.
That's how I'm expecting to use it. So as long as I have more than, 2 or 3, that was fine with me, because it shouldn't take me any more than that.
Right. Do you always keep one in the chamber?
No, when I got up, I put one in there because nobody was seeing who was at the door. I never keep it in the chamber because once upon a time I got, not pulled over, but the police kind of put bonuses when I first, I didn't even have a gun license yet. And, no, I did get pulled over actually, and I had one in the chamber. The police told me, he said that for future record, they took my gun or whatever, and they took out the clip, and they ran my ID and stuff, and then they came back, and he was like, I never hand anybody guns back. So they threw the clip in my front seat, and they put the gun in my trunk, and he was like, for future reference, never keep one in the head, because that's a charge or something, like 10 or something like that. So since then, I never even keep one in there. So.
So you don't
I don't know how true that was, but I mean, it made sense to me, so I'm like, I don't want any problems, so I just want to keep my empty.
So you don't know how many you had your clip?
I say maybe like 7 or 8. It only holds 10 plus 1, I think.
How long have you had the gun?
I think about a year and a half. It was 2.
You go to the range a lot?
No, I've only been to the range like 2 or 3 times. I only shot that gun in the range once, actually.
Do you have other guns?
Well, I did, but I only had one other one, the AR-15 pistol. That was a small one, but I had the same colors.
So you don't have that gun? So is there any other guns in her apartment?
No.
The sister doesn't have one that we can't be aware of?
She's only 2 years old. Yeah, she definitely don't have any guns.
And then Breonna's never had a gun before?
She's supposed to be getting her.
Anytime especially ammo or anything like that, carry just ball ammo or carry ball points or anything.
to a dispatcher when you called 911? Someone answered? And what did you say to them?
I told him someone just kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Did you give them the address?
Yeah. Yeah. I told him my name, and I gave him my address, and that was it. I was heading to it, so I started crying on the phone, noticing what's going on with her, and I just told him I gotta go, I gotta go.
So was there any sounds in the apartment that would be picked up, you think, that was going on at that point while he was on the phone with 911?
Maybe TV, because the movie was still on.
But nothing from like outside in the hallway or the door, or
I don't think so.
no one yelling? What's your mom's name?
Felicia Walker.
Her mom?
My mom's son.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry. Breonna's mom.
Tracy. Tamika. Okay, her real name right now. I just call her CP. Or I call her Reese Mom.
Oh. So you think of Tamika?
Tamika Palmer.
So you said that you and Breonna have been on and off for 7 years? So you said that she messed around with somebody else before? Or?
Yeah, it was really, she messed with him before me, and then we started messing with each other, but then we wouldn't mess with each other, so she kind of messed with him again, you know, and then it's that sort of situation. But me and her always, that was my best friend.
So have you guys known each other longer than 7 years, or?
I saw you met in like 2012 or 13. So when I said we went off for 7 years, really like the first 3 or 4 years of us knowing each other, like we weren't even together, like it was just like my best friend.
She always lived in this apartment?
Well, first she lived with her mom when I first met her, and when she moved into that apartment. It was her first apartment, so she probably lived there in like 2014 or 15, and she's been there ever since.
And then your apartment's over out at Iroquois Garden, which isn't too far.
I just moved there in July, so for the last 2 years before July, I lived there with Breonna at Springfield.
Oh, you lived with?
Yeah,
Okay.
for the last two, maybe 3 years before I moved to my own apartment in July.
Okay, of 2019.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you live there by yourself?
Yeah.
And you often stay at your apartment too? Sometimes?
We do pretty much rotate. Cause like I said, her sister lives there too. So if her sister was there right now, we probably would like went over to our apartment. But her sister's out of town right now, so we just at her apartment.
You have any kind of schedule where you are at her house a couple of days, then at your house, or just?
Just depends on what we feel.
You said you don't have your roommates? It's just one bedroom apartment?
Did she have anything over at your house?
Toothbrush, a flat iron under the sink.
Girl stuff? She don't have any clothes, or did she keep anything over there?
Mail or anything like that?
She might have like a t-shirt or something over there.
She traveled with her stuff? Like when she would come and stay at her place, she'd bring a bag, or?
Well, it really just depends. I mean, she only lived right around the corner, so we didn't ever really like plan specifically to stay anywhere, but just whatever we was feeling at the moment. And if she didn't have it, it really didn't matter because we would get up and we went in right around the corner of her house or something. She would get up and leave or whatever.
When was the last time she stayed at your apartment?
Maybe like a week ago.
Do you all both have your own cars? Do you drive over there? Is y'all's cars in the apartment complex parking lot, like right outside the door? What kind of parking you have?
Two guys before two cars.
What about hers?
Just got a new car.
She,
The two guys IT charge party. Does the police officer get okay?
I don't know any specifics on that yet.
Yeah, let's take a break for a minute. Is the evening?
Little snacks or anything like that? I don't know if you're hungry or you're.
We'll go back in about 15, 20 minutes and kind of talk a little bit more. I just want to take a break for a second. Okay, kind of process some of this stuff. You have any questions for us before we go?
Why did they even come there?
Yeah, so we're in the early stages and stuff like that, and that's kind of something I want to figure out.
And why he say to me that it was a misunderstanding?
No, that's some new information for us as well. I mean, that's what we're trying to learn.
The officer who was in the car with me while me here, she heard him say it too. Because he told her to roll down the window. And he was like, man, his tone was totally different from everybody else's. He was like, well, get you over here, anything, ooh, like, he was being real nice. So, like, I'm not an idiot. I feel like that they figured out something. They did something wrong.
Well, let's look into that. We'll figure it out in a second. We'll be back in 15, 20 minutes. Okay? Give us a second here, buddy. Let me make sure the restroom's clear. So we'll get it figured out, okay?
Okay, that's the end of the first interview with Kenneth Walker. And so we're ready to go off the record now because lunch is here.